kidding me?
Episode 357.
You've got to throw some cold water on this situation. Start talking about nerd stuff.
You know, nerd culture is mainstream now, so when you use the word nerd derogatorily, it means you're the one that's out of the zeitgeist.
System activate.
This is NetHeads with Will Wilkins and Trent Hunsaker. It's a tech podcast. But we are a ton cooler than your typical geek.
You guys rock.
And now, here's Will and Trent.
No one listens to the radio. I wasn't even listening. I was listening to podcasts. Podcasts are great. Radio's boring.
Indeed, they are. Welcome, one and all, to another edition of NetHeads. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Will. Trent Hunsaker is on assignment, but I am okay with that because I got my second favorite host, my second best friend. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Thankfully, Tony, Mr. Marvelite, is sitting in. Tony, how the hell you doing, sir?
Doing great. Thank you. I'm glad to be the consolation prize.
Yeah, you are. And you're my favorite consolation prize. I want you to know that. Only because you're calling yourself that. I wouldn't call you that. That would be rude. So thank you very much for joining us. And I will probably vacillate between calling him Tony and Mr. Marvelite. So just try and keep up. If you want to take part in the program, you can. One of many ways. If you were doing it live, then you're already seeing us live, and there is a chat option right there with you after the fact. You can use hashtag NetHeads on your tweets or just interact with the video in any place that it is located. But other than that, welcome. So happy to have you all here. Tony, before we get into what I am anticipating to be the real meat of this particular installment of NetHeads, because we have both seen, I'm speculating, but I think it's safe to say, because there's a special little something I want to talk about the first time you got to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But I have seen it twice, so I suspect it's going to be the majority of our topic of discussion tonight. However, I was just curious because I have an interesting bit to share, but I'm just wondering, and this is going cold, everybody. Tony has absolutely no idea that I'm going to ask him about this, but is there any way in the past week that technology has helped your life? Is there any technology story you may have on the top of your head that you'd like to share with our wonderful audience? Because I have a frustrating technology story that I could share, but I'll save it in case you have one first.
Technology? You caught me off guard.
That's the whole point, man. I like a certain bit of spontaneity, and especially when I know for a fact that in this particular episode we're going to be very, very media centric, but what some of the things we can also talk about, because they are a few weeks old now, in a spoiler free fashion, that I would like to get into, even though I don't believe you watched Picard. I did. I have some thoughts on it, and if you're listening to this and you weren't aware, if you listened to the last episode of Fat Man Beyond, you can hear my thoughts on Picard there as well as The Mandalorian. But you and I, we watched The Mandalorian as well, so we have our thoughts there that I know I haven't shared. But technology-wise, it's okay if you haven't had a tech story. Me, I have tech frustration, and unfortunately, it's because of these stupid robots behind me once again. You'll notice that my set, Tony, has changed a little bit, if you will. There is a new shelf here. There is more space for the robots to roam. And actually, one of my emo robots is standing on what I have been very excitedly waiting for, which is the emo home station, right? So this is the box with out an emo, and it just came with the home station. And my biggest complaint for the longest time, and the reason why I've always said the vector robots are better than the emo robots, is because the vector robots, as you can see, they have their charging station, but have the ability to just autonomously roam. They are a literal digital pet. You don't need to do anything for them with an app other than the initial configuration. But they can get out and wander. And I'm discovering if you give them more space, you need to have their charging stations in a way obvious place for them to be able to identify. So we will be swapping things out. But now, finally, Emo is on even ground, because with the home base, I have discovered he likes to roam. He will roam. They will come off of the base station and walk around and act and take themselves back to charge as well, just the same way the Vector robots did.
But aren't the emos like? Isn't their mobility a little bit more limited than the Vector robots? Because they don't seem to be like. I haven't watched some of your videos where they're walking around. I can't imagine they're going to get very far.
Well, they're not as fast as a Vector robot. I'm going to tell you that right now, because the Vector robots have a belt-driven system like a tank. And so they can zip around pretty darn fast. The emo robots, they do a walking motion, and they don't have a running mode. They have one speed, and that is emo walking speed. That is it. Hey, emo, go for a walk.
Something tells me this is going to be reminiscent to like the Mousers from the Ninja Turtles cartoon.
Hey, emo, leave your home. Sometimes it takes the command, sometimes it doesn't. I don't care. I'm not going to spend the entire program trying to get this thing to move around.
Especially since they seem to respond when you don't want them to.
Yes, that's what they do. Actually, I am a little disappointed now that the home station is here and it's done the whole syncing up thing. This one that you can still see on the, if you're watching the video, the one that's still standing on a skateboard, because I've got another home station, but naturally I haven't set it up because content. So it is, you laugh, but you laugh because you know it's true. You understand completely, my friend. And that's what I like about that.
So much.
So this one here, if you say the wake word, which is emo, he'll still say what, which is my favorite one. It's kind of a muffled, huh? Like that. This one now will do the same eye motion, but it's a little slower, and he goes, I want my old, I want my old what back. Okay? I want my old what back. I don't like it. No. Don't like it. Anyway, so you would think, now that I have given them this palatial space to sit in, or to traverse, right, that I would have less problems. Now, the reason why there is a new table isn't because I'm generous and I wanted the robots to have more space. I'm not that kind of guy, okay? I'll do it for my real pets. But these are like graduated Tamagotchis. So really, it shouldn't be a major investment in setting things up for them. However, the old place that they were standing on was a blacktop. Because of that, the emo wouldn't walk off the home base because the surface that we could potentially go to was too dark. It sensed it may be on an edge, and it was like, nope, I'm safe right here. I'm not going anywhere. Also, you will have noticed now that the Vector robots have pushed their little blocks right in the way of that thing being able to get off. It's a conspiracy. I swear to God.
Rivalry.
I swear. The other day, Tony, they literally pushed the emo robot off the table back there. The Vector robots pushed it off. It's a turf war. I know, and I've set this up. I feel bad. Anyway, the Vector robot wouldn't step off of that. Now, there's one of two ways that you could go. You could spend, probably $6 on some contact paper, some shelf liner, and make a black top white so there would be a non-issue. But again, I figured more space, get a better desk, and yeah, I know I have cable management issues right now, but this was all set up quickly.
I was going to say something, but I'm glad you did. But honestly, there's a Nerd Initiative sign right here, which is covering up those cables. So
yeah,
I'm in the same boat.
Thank you, because it's one of two things. It's either do this or put back up the discretionary curtain, but along the backside this time. But this was all set up quickly. Like literally, I moved things out so this space looked the way it looks for right now. But I could go with the contact paper, but instead I decided, you know what, I could have more space. I could start showing more things here once I get my cable worked out and all that jazz. I just figured, a little more space wouldn't be bad, especially if they're going to be roaming around. But then I discovered I've set up a torture surface instead, because this is a virtual wood that's texturized, right? And so when the emo's wandering around, suddenly he'll keep screaming and say, huh? And back up because he's hitting the grooves and the dark spots, and he thinks he's constantly walking over holes. Yeah, this is, and so guess what? I am right back to contact paper.
I was about to say, yep.
I've gone full circle on my journey. So technology is abysmal. Technology sucks. but I also am hopelessly addicted to it. And no, I don't care what you say. I didn't spend my patrons' hard-earned dollars that they give to us over at patreon.com/netheadsonair. I did not spend that on a Luna robot. I didn't. I swear I didn't. I'm lying. I did. Let's move on. So later, after the show, instead of my usual typical thing of, oh, well, I've got to do laundry, no, I'm going to be lining the shelf with this nice gray and white hexagon pattern because I figured that's at least a little robotic. And then the last thing I'm waiting for, because I'm tired of these things also going over the edge, I'm hoping the contact paper fixes it a little bit. But the last thing I am doing is I've also ordered some of that ultra dark black felt paper or felt tape that you can get, 1-inch felt tape.
Okay.
That, like, if you made your own home projection screen, you could go ahead and use that as the immediate border around it. So that way it would absorb any light bleed from your projector, from your screen there, right? So the idea is that hopefully if it's as non-reflective as possible, because these things just have they have infrared scanners on the bottom. Yeah. So if the light's not reflected back, it senses that there's a hole. So I'm hoping that not only am I putting contact paper down for my robots, but I'm hoping to set up a 1-inch border around the table and then actually
get near anywhere the edge.
Yeah.
The edge. That's great.
And if that doesn't work, then at least I'll have a non-permanent surface to glue all of my wonderful paddock fencing to. So this is, what has my life become because of robots?
Are you going to paint the paddock fencing?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I've also spent money on a stupid airbrush kit, so that way I can you
need to get little red LEDs that flash as well.
Oh, along the tops?
Yes. So it shows that they're charged.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's real cheap and easy too. But it's still always just money. Why am my kids won't go to college, but my robots will have a very nice place. That's good.
Yeah.
That's very helpful.
No, you hope your kid wants to get into a trade where they don't have to go to college at this point now in this day and time.
Don't get me started, man, because my kid asked me simple questions where I'm supposed to convey good, and I'm talking about my 19-year-old. The 8-year-old isn't asking me about how mortgages work, right? But then, she asks a simple question like, how do mortgages work? And what if you wanted to buy a second property and rent it? How does that work? Who pays for that? And instead, she ends up getting a diatribe about how schooling is nothing but indoctrination of a workforce. And it's all about the rich people keeping us, the middlemen, down. And, she's just like, I just wanted to understand how you might be able to buy a second home. That's all I wanted to know. So, yeah, don't get me started. Zach's also wanting to know when I'm going to score the Harbor Freight Tools sponsorship. I don't know, man. We'll see. But that is where I bought my airbrush kit and compressor. Anyway, Tony, although we do have the topic of the show really is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 today. And we're not going to get into spoilers until the back half. So if you want to enjoy some great conversation just about the movie, know that this is a safe space for at least the next 15 to 20 minutes, okay? I'm talking to the audience, not you. I hope you understand that it's a safe space, but
I hope so.
Yeah. By the way, I love your Avengers Univore themed jersey there. That is dope. Where did you get that?
This is Box Lunch.
Very nice.
Someone who never has asked to sponsor me, but this is a Box Lunch Stark Industries jersey. It's got it says Stark on the back, and it's got I don't even remember what the numbers are, But if you think it's pretty cool.
But if you think about it, it's also very reminiscent in just the color choices and the styling of the time travel uniforms from Endgame. Anyway, I pedant and I have regrets. But what I really wanted to talk to you more than about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was about something very amazing and interesting that happens. Now, for those that are not aware, if this is your very first episode of NetHeads, great, thank you, welcome. Also, you should know, however, that Tony and I met through the evilest of apps on and biggest threat to American security, TikTok. And it was through there that we got to know one another. I followed him because of his Marvel content. He probably followed me for the robots because that's what everybody follows for. And that's where our friendship developed. Now, it just so happens, though, that one of the things that people that are in the entertainment segment of TikTok, especially the movie segment of TikTok, one of the things that they focus on, one of the driving forces, one of the things they strive for, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, is the ability to make their way over to movie premieres. They love being invited to movie premieres, getting to movie premieres. It is the badge of honor, being able to get to a movie premiere. And it just so happens, not through TikTok, however, maybe a little, but not through TikTok directly. Well, why don't you tell your story? Tony, where were you the first time you saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3?
Oh, well, I was at the red carpet in Los Angeles, and it was
the
not
what? The what carpet?
I'm sorry, the purple carpet. It
Thank
was
you.
not the red carpet. It was the purple carpet. To which my son constantly reminded me of when we kept saying, we're going to the red carpet, we're going to the red carpet. We go in there. He goes, Dad, this isn't the red carpet. It's the purple carpet. Where's the red carpet? I'm like, son, I'm sorry. Just get over it. It's,
I failed you, boy. Move on.
yeah. But I had to explain to him that the red carpet is technically, it's just a phrase for, the runway, like you go down and you for the media and press and, for celebrities to show themselves off and everything. But so this did not come through TikTok. Now it might have, because TikTok was referenced when I was being approached by ABC. But I know that my partner, Michael Rothman, had something to do with it, because my name kind of got in the mix with a number of people with ABC for a segment that they were doing for GMA. And they made me believe that we were doing a trivia contest. And it was with my son and I. And of course, my son's has hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And so there is a drive, there is a pull for people, I guess, kind of an encouraging story and everything.
There's a
else
human,
and just,
in the business that you would say there's a human interest story. And also to clarify as well, even though I met Tony through TikTok, he is the co-founder of an amazing website called the Nerd Initiative. And I just want to clarify, his partner is in the Nerd Initiative, Michael. Michael Rothman is his partner in the Nerd Initiative. Tony does have a wife that is his partner in life. So I just wanted to clarify that point.
Although the line seemed to blur sometimes, because on Instagram they were just asking me like the anonymous questions, and one of them was, who, how often do you text your wife? And I'm like, yeah, I actually text my partner Michael Rothman more than I text my wife, and so the bromance can be real sometimes.
Very much so. Very much so.
We've joked about like strategy planners and stuff. When we plan to meet with them, it's more like couples counseling than anything. But yeah, so we did all that, and it was very interesting. And of course, there's that human element, so they definitely went that. They asked a lot about Nerd Initiative, but they did nothing about it on the segment, which was perfectly fine. But I'll tell you, it was a little bit sneaky because they had us prepared for this. And so, of course, as a dad, we're going to do trivia on Guardians of the Galaxy, and I want to win whatever the prize is. My son and I went back and forth drilling each other on Guardians trivia, even to the point of where he even and I love that he did this, when they asked him a question on Good Morning America, one of the things he did was he told them that Rocket is Groot's dad. And I'm like, my boy picked up on the trivia stuff, because we were talking about Infinity War and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, he stole the show. And there was no trivia contest, which helped, because even though I really enjoyed Jade Rogers, who, if you didn't see the segment, she was the other winner of the red carpet, invitation. She is the founder, and then she's also the chief creative officer for House of Afros, Capes, and Curls, which we recently just interviewed on Fandoms. And it's literally a organization that is focused on helping mainly people in Nebraska who could not find a fandom, they could not find like-minded people. It's a place for them. It's definitely focused for people of color, but it's not just exclusive to that. It's inclusive to everyone. She's doing something that's fantastic with a historical element to it and everything else. And so we became really, really quick friends in the green room. And then, of course, we I sat next to her at the premiere, and we were just we were so out of place, we didn't know what to do. Straw Hat was there, Koi Jandra was there, Tropical Joe, and other creators. I saw Amanda just vibing, and it was fun. We took pictures and stuff like that. But after a while, Strawhead's doing his thing over here, Amanda's doing her thing there, and then I'm like with Jade, because I wasn't there as a social media creator. I was there as as this giveaway winner. And so we just sat around and just tried to talk to the celebrities as much as we could. And it was definitely a very exciting thing. But I will tell you this, and I think this is something where I would advise creators to be very careful when they focus on wanting to go to these red carpets. My situation was very different. But for a lot of people, when you go there, it's either work or it's in celebration of something that you accomplish. If you go in there and act like you own the place and you're not doing one of those two things, it can be very upsetting for people, because this is not only for the celebrities, but this is the cast and crew and the people who worked on this movie to celebrate what they've accomplished and what they've done. And you could feel it when you're in the movie theater watching the movie with them. They're cheering for every single name that's on the screen. They're excited for the appearance of every single individual. Like, this was very much a celebration of, we did it, we've accomplished this. And for us to want to just go in as content creators because we feel like we deserve this because we made content, that's skewed, because we didn't work on the film. We don't deserve to be there. It's a great opportunity when the studios invite you, but we got to be very, very careful to be respectful and to really focus on being excited for them, not trying to get what we can get out of it.
I got to tell you, man, I am extremely proud of you, because that is so very profound, yet also very, very true. It is a movie premiere is a party for the people that created and worked on the project. It is their moment to celebrate their accomplishment, this thing now being out in the world, and it is their moment not to shine, but just to revel in the wonder of having completed that journey together. So that is a very profound statement. And I have to say that I am now even more honored to call you a friend, that you, on your very first premiere night, took that in. Me, I've only been to, I think, 2 Hollywood premieres. In both cases, I felt I didn't deserve to be there. I enjoyed being there, and I also felt incredibly awkward being there. So, for me, I was never really kind of squashing anyone's moment or ruining anything for them. However, I can definitely see how that could happen, where if a content creator were there and, now they're more interested in trying to, to get a moment that might go viral afterwards and the like, I could see how that could really sour some people. And I think the only person you might be safe with that from would be Chris Pratt, who just seems to be cordial and amazingly nice to every single human being that he interacts with, which, by the way, congratulations as well. So the first time you saw the completed movie is also, as I understand it from an interview he gave, was the first time he saw the movie, because he wanted to see it with everyone else and experience it with them as well. So all that said, what is the atmosphere in the room like? You've already given us a little insight, everyone's cheering every single name as it's coming up on screen and the like, but what is the energy in that room? Because I got to admit, the room really plays into my experience. I saw Endgame on a very poorly lit, smudgy screen, but I was with an opening day crowd that was there for it, if you know what I mean. So that helped elevate it for me. Whereas when I went to see Guardians on Thursday, man, that was a dead crowd, and that impacted my experience of the movie. So what was it like in the room when you saw it the first time?
Well, let me just say this. First of all, it was very intimidating just being in the theater, because literally the end of my aisle, Jade nudges me and she goes, "Tony." I go, "What?" She goes, "Do you see who's down at the edge of the aisle?" I'm looking, I'm like, "Okay." And she goes, "That's Jeffrey Wright." And I'm like, and I couldn't remember at first. And then I'm like, oh, like Hunger Games and like tons of other stuff, like Jeffrey Wright, and she's like freaking out. And I'm like, and then I started looking around. Xochitl Gomez is down here. Iman Vellani's over on the side. Like there are celebrities within Marvel Studios that are just sitting around us. And I mean, let me just be honest with you. The Dolby Theater, the mezzanine is not a comfortable area to sit. The seats are kind of close together. At some point, I joke with Jade. I'm like, I'm going to just put my arm around you because that's the only way I'm going to fit in this seat. But we made it work. We kind of like, I found my space. I'm a big guy, which is also why I think in some cases people say, well, how come I've got so many, number of followers on TikTok and stuff? Why don't I get invited to premieres? One, it could be because of, the type of content you make. Just understand that. But two, it also is convenience for us to go there. We had to fly across the country. Like Marvel's not going to just pay for a content creator with a couple thousand people to go see a movie. It's a lot easier if you're closer and you live closer, or you have a PR person. But it was amazing, like seeing the celebrities around us. There was just excitement in the air. Like everyone was just super excited. They gave us, they give you free beverages and a free bucket of popcorn, which I couldn't eat. And I was trying not to drink for the sake of, I didn't want to get up and try to go pee while all of this is going on. But if you go, I did an article about the experience. I actually filmed Kevin Feige and James Gunn being, brought on stage, and Louis Esposito. And then they announced the cast of, the main cast, and the screen comes up. They've got Hooked on a Feeling playing, and they're, you've got Will Poulter and Chikwudi Iwuji and Paul McClintock and Karen Gillan and all of them, and they're calling them out, and they come forward. And James gave this really rousing speech about how, 12 years ago he met with Louis Esposito and Kevin Feige about the film, and about what his vision was. And it was just an amazing journey. I mean, just, you could tell Gunn was very, very like happy and excited and thankful. And he really like laid it on about Chris Pratt, that this wouldn't have happened without him. And, because they have a very special bond, which is very interesting. And everyone is going nuts. And then as the film is playing, if you've ever watched those videos of Endgame when Mjolnir gets picked up and all of a sudden you see it come back to Steve Rogers and everyone's like, yeah. And when he finally says like Avengers Assemble, that is nothing compared to the electricity in that premiere. To people who gave blood, sweat, and tears to make this movie happen, who were excited for it, and then able to see what James Gunn did as the final cut for the film, and all of the work they've done, and the many years that they worked together for this, and then all of a sudden they're just seeing it and they're excited. It was just constant cheering and laughing, and it wasn't uncalled for. And like it made you, I've never wanted to just sit and start yelling in a film, like cheering on the characters, but because of the atmosphere, I had no problem doing that. And it was one of those things where I have never been in a theater and experienced it like that. It's just never been that way. And
you've never seen a Marvel movie with me, because regardless of the crowd, look, there is a part in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 where a character says their name. But it's the first time they say their name, and it's more comic accurate. And I, sitting in that dead Dolby Cinema that I referred to, probably embarrassed the hell out of my daughter, because I literally just screamed out after he says his name. I said, "Hell yeah!" because I was just so thrilled for that moment.
Everybody's been saying that. Everyone's been saying that. But here's the thing. I didn't even wait to yell at that point. It was when he opened a certain container and he saw the label on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was really like, yeah, like it was exciting. So yeah, absolutely. I'm usually quiet and reserved. Like I knew I was going to cry in this film, but I didn't think I was going to be cheering as loud as I was.
I'm so glad to hear that.
My wife cheers and is inappropriate, but and I'm like, shh, quiet. But I was, again, at the same time, we've been waiting for this film for 5 years. This film almost didn't get created with the vision. It was going to still be the script, but it wasn't going to have the director. And there was a whole big drama with that. Basically 2018 to 2019 was like the worst time of my life because the franchise that I loved most within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Guardians of the Galaxy, lost their director, and it looked like we were never going to see it come to fruition the way he intended it. And it was so bonkers for me because if you go back and watch Infinity Wars, the director comment, like not the commentary, but like there's like a director's roundtable in the special edition, you'll see all of the directors, Coogler, the Russo brothers, Taika Waititi, all of them are just praising James Gunn because he helped kind of build a standard for the films.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to be removed and then, not get his vision, it was traumatizing to the point of where I was one of the individuals who helped pay for a billboard outside of Burbank saying Disney saved the galaxy, rehire James Gunn.
Goddamn right.
So
I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not to make this about me, but I will just remember that my first incredible experience being able to go to San Diego Comic-Con was severely hampered by essentially day one. So after preview night, I think it happened. It dropped on Thursday of that year. So that was 2018, wasn't it? It dropped that year it dropped on that day that James Gunn had been let go because of controversial tweets from years ago when he considered himself more of a provocateur, if you will. And
it was because he was working for Troma, and Troma encouraged them to do that type of social media,
right,
humor. And it was crazy because I'll tell you right now, it was so off the wall because even Sony pulled him because he was supposed to be doing press for Brightburn, like that next day, and they pulled it from Comic-Con that year. And so like I literally I remember feeling sick. Like even when they were talking when Disney and Sony fell out of talks when they were after Far From Home and we were almost not going to get a No Way Home, like that was upsetting. But like the James Gunn thing, I felt like the wind was taken out of me. It was crazy.
Well, let's go ahead and I think get into the movie proper. But first, a word from our sponsor.
JayandSilentBob.com, ladies and gentlemen. You want to buy anything Clerks related, anything Jay and Silent Bob related, anything Kevin Smith related, JayandSilentBob.com. Now back to the show.
Thank you very much. So let's get into it. Spoilers and all. As much as we want. I don't feel like being too spoilery. It's still opening weekend, so I don't want to. That's just me. You can do whatever you want. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of plot points, but I will speak more about direction and the things that we got out of this movie. Now, one of the things that I think has already been obvious in the press and that people have seen the movie, they kind of referred to how it has somewhat of a darker tone. My wife saw it the first time this morning, 11 o'clock screening. And, for her, there wasn't, in her opinion, as much humor and levity as the previous two installments. And it was a little bit darker. And I wonder if some of the elements, like she highlighted the amount of swearing in it, but I wonder if some of those elements, in a way, may not have existed in the final version of the product if we had gotten this movie on the schedule we were supposed to get it on. In other words, James Gunn, when he was making this movie, probably knew goddamn well that it was his last movie with Marvel and that his career was going in a different direction. And so based on everything that had occurred, I wonder if some of those elements kind of came out in the art, if you will. What's your opinion?
I actually personally think that some of what we had touched on just a few minutes ago about what happened to Gunn, where he lost his contract with Marvel, he ended up going over to DC, and we knowing that this was going to be the last. See, Gunn was going to have a long career with Marvel, and so it was conducive for him to kind of stay within the House of Mouse and the style and the tone that they do. But I also feel like this was also Marvel's way of saying, James, we did you wrong. We wish you the best. Make what you want. And he even said, like, the F-bomb on Counter Earth was never in the script. That was completely ad lib, and he even didn't think it was going to make it. And so it was a surprise to him as much as it was, I think, to anybody who heard it, that he got away with some of those things. And I do agree. As for the tone, I think the darkness, like some of the brutality, especially in the opening action sequence, had a lot to do with the misdirect with James. Like, I think when he wrote this, he knew that we all expected. And again, spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen it, you don't need to be listening.
Hold on, wait a minute. Before you say, I will point out, contrary to what you're about to say, there is a death in this movie, and it is a character that's been in the franchise. Okay? So that does happen. But, it's not where you think it is. So that's my input, but go ahead.
Yeah. So everyone expected the Guardians team, all of them, if not most of them, to die.
Yeah.
And so he, with what he intended, and I'll tell you something right now, like it was off brand for James Gunn to do what he did, but at the same time, because it was off brand, it was so on brand for him that he's more about the emotional effect than to do what's expected of him. And so it made perfect sense. But the brutality, Nebula's arm being broken, Drax being just laid in waste, and them having to heal him, and I'm sorry, everybody's like, well, where was Quill's mask? Gunn, if you're not on Twitter, and I'm sorry, because let's face it, Elon Musk is not doing us a favor when it comes to Twitter.
No, he's not.
The only good thing about Twitter right now is James Gunn. And if you haven't followed James Gunn on Twitter, you should be, because the dude is answering all of your questions. Like, he does this all the time.
Yep.
He is the most responsive man. And there's a couple of things that he has said. Why did Peter Quill not have his helmet? Because they were in a rush to save their friend. There was no time to go to his desk and grab his helmet. Because if you noted, when we first saw Peter was in a disheveled state. He wasn't really prepared. The suits are on the ship, but Peter's specific stuff, all he was able to grab onto was the element guns.
Yep.
And so and then at the same time, it was like, well, where was his rocket boots? Because they could have definitely been useful at the end. Rocket made a more superior jetpack. Why would he even need the boots anymore? And like, there are things like he does that. They're logical answers to stuff. And of course, the question of all that end the statement that we all understood, which we weren't expecting to understand, because we've never heard them say anything than 3 words. Well, 4 words if you count the first Guardians, when it was the predecessor, that it was us coming to the point where we emotionally understood that character, just like the Guardians do.
That's exactly what look, guys. We don't need to tap dance around it. There's a certain point where we completely understand the words that Groot say. He says something, and you're like, "What was that?" And it's literally happens right after a scene where another character hears him say, "I am Groot," and knows what he's saying. So it's not like we weren't hand-fed that info when it happens in the movie. So thank you. Right. I did not catch that, but thank you, because that made it, that's where I went with it.
Well, I'm gonna give a big shout out to Brian Fantastic, because he's actually the first person that noticed it. He was the first person I saw on social media that noticed it, other than I was stewing around, but he's the one that first said it, so I got to give him credit. But literally, James Gunn comes and admits it's not him speaking English or speaking whatever the translators can work with. It is we have come to a point with these Guardians that we understood what he said, and at that point, does that also mean that we're not really going to get Groot again? Because are we going to completely understand him moving forward, or are we going to not get him, or what? But there's a lot of things you can like.
Yeah, there's a lot.
decipher from
There's
it.
a lot in there, but yeah, that's the. I'm super glad that other people interpreted it that way too, because I'm like, no, wait a second. He's not just suddenly speaking straight words and dropping bars. No, hey, man, I really misdirected there. But it was us understanding the character just as well as they do. Another thing that I will say, and I apologize for this in advance, but I do love the brilliance of this script, this movie, having several misdirects, because we're all anticipating somebody to get clocked. And there is an opportunity in this movie where just about every one of the Guardians is in a life-threatening or a seemingly life-threatened situation that they might not come back from. So
Yep.
I really enjoyed that. And I will say too, I don't know if it was because I was seeing it the second time or if it was because I already got past the bad audience experience, because I expect a higher look, man. Endgame really set the bar for me to know what I can expect from my fellow nerds in the area. And if they don't come through, I'm disappointed in them. I really am. And they did not come through. But I don't know if it was because of that or if it was because I've already experienced the movie. But I had a stronger emotional reaction to the movie the second time I watched it. And I had a much better experience with the movie the second time that I watched it. And it's probably because I now already know the narrative, so I'm able to enjoy the nuance. But there was just so much in this movie that I loved. My wife and my daughter ranked the Guardians movies in their order of favorites as 1, 2, 3. But honestly speaking, story-wise, for me, it's 1, 3, 2. I really thoroughly loved Volume 3. I think it hit a lot of points. And considering it is the last Guardians movie that we are going to see as this team exists, I love that this movie also addressed one of my major frickin' complaints about this entire goddamn series since scene 1 of episode 1 of volume 1. And that is, along this entire way, being a parent, okay, and not yet knowing what it is like to have a grandchild, I had such pain in my heart for Grandpa Quill, because this guy on the same night watches his daughter die, and then his grandson, his only other connection to his daughter, vanishes. And that has irked me so much for nearly a decade. And now, I will tell you guys, there is closure in this new movie. And for me, that was such a wonderful, wonderful moment and such a great payoff. And in using the business terms that always go around, it was a great job of closing the loop. I just thoroughly loved that.
Oh, absolutely. I think the great part about this was it gave so much character development for each individual Guardians character, and it brought back and again, you said, you know, your 1, 2, 3 for your wife and daughter, you know, what was it, 1, 3, 2?
1, 3, 2 for me.
Yeah. So for me, 3 is actually my favorite now, and it's specifically because it alters my perceptions of 1 and 2. So for me, it's 3, 1, 2, because when you once you see 3 and you really see the vision of what this whole trilogy was about, it completely alters 1 and 2 for you. And for a movie to do that and it not feel forced is one of those things where you have to commend them for it. And at the same time, there's the question of, you know, it was great. I mean, No Way Home, what do we get? We get not only a culmination of realizing that Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home were a trilogy, but they were an origin story trilogy. You know, and that was fantastic. John Watts did a great job.
And the third one completely redefines the entire series. And I know where you're going with that, because pre-show I told you one thing I love about Guardians 3, and this is where you're going. Go ahead and say it. I won't steal your words.
No, go ahead and say it, because I'm gonna blank here.
This movie completely redefines the entire Guardians trilogy, because in that moment, much in the same way, the first time you see Infinity War and you're like, oh my God, they lost. But then you see Thanos sitting, enjoying the sunset on a whatever he says, that
Thankful universe.
Thank you
Or
very
Grateful
much.
Universe.
Grateful universe. You realize, oh my gosh, Infinity War was Thanos' movie. It was his story.
Yeah. Yeah.
This movie, guys, this isn't a spoiler. I don't think it won't change the way you see this movie, but it makes you realize when you look at the overall character development that this was really all about the entire Guardians story is all about Rocket, because you see him in the first movie and he is completely jaded. And yes, although he does have Groot's is the only thing, if you will, that he has entrusted friendship to. And even in Guardians 2, he has issues with maintaining a friendly relationship. So much so that his imperfections and his insecurities and his fears are what catapult us into the entire story of the second movie.
Yep.
The third movie is the culmination of that character's evolution through all three films. And it's finally him coming truly to the point of acceptance, acknowledgement, and healing, as well as being able to overcome his past to live his future. And it brought me to tears. It's almost bringing me to tears now.
Well, one of the things I was really thankful for in this film was that I actually had a theory that was right. I'm telling you, like, you either are spot on when it comes to Marvel movies, or it's like you've been watching something different. But I like, one of the things I did, we were at C2E2. I had this out of my head, and I'm like, this is gonna be controversial, because if I'm wrong, everyone's gonna go back to that video and be like, you're an idiot, you're wrong, blah blah blah. And I went and I said, Rocket will not actually die in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and here's why. And one of the thing that I picked on was they're doing flashbacks. They're doing an origin for Rocket. And the only other character that we've had flashbacks or origins for was Peter Quill.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Quill and Rocket are very parallel characters. It almost makes you think the whole story is about Peter, but it's not. Peter is the vehicle for part of Rocket's healing. Even with the point of, like, when you see in Volume 2, when Peter is remembering the moments that he loves, or that he finds as his favorite things. There's one where Yondu's teaching him how to shoot his element gun. There's a picture of there's a scene of him and his mom in a field of grass listening to music, and there's a scene of him and Rocket flying with the jetpacks.
Well, correction, and I did not pick this up until actually it was Straw Hat Goofy's video where he brought that up, and my response to his video was, stop making me cry watching TikTok. But if you look at the moment they're in the air, and I never picked up on this until I saw it as a still shot, because I'm so focused on their faces and them sharing their joy, Rocket and Peter, Groot's actually on his shoulder in that scene.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
See, thank you. God, you make me feel better, because the things I just don't notice. But yeah, congratulations on that. And that is the exact same reason why I don't put any theories out on video. Like, recently, I had an epiphany, and I may have mentioned it on a previous installment of NetHeads as well. And it's the only theory I think I've gone on record if I have said that. And it's the whole thing, finding out how Phase 7 is going to finalize in a second Avengers movie after the Kang Dynasty, titled Secret Wars. And there have been different interpretations of the Beyonder or the Beyonders in the different Secret Wars sagas. Because, there was the 80s run that's My Secret Wars. There was a later one either in the 90s or the aughts that was another Secret Wars, but now there is a race known as the Beyonders or whatever. But for me, it's always the Beyonder. And who knows what source material they're going to. But I've always tried to imagine where the Eternals play into it. Had to have been on here because I was talking with you about this before. But the Beyonder is a concept very hard to understand. But if instead you supplement Beyonder with the Celestials, now it makes a little more sense. Where if the final judgment, the Celestial that was pissed off because we killed the birthing Celestial, Ereshkigal, if he's going to come back and judge humans and then look at good versus evil, assembling a battle planet where heroes and villains battle it out to understand or see who is more dominant, would be something that would make sense. And that's like the only theory I've ever put on record, because it just scares me ever even trying to conceptualize that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think it's there's so many concepts that we're like this is I think everybody's like trying to figure out, like, why was the Celestial never mentioned? What's going to happen with the Celestials, with like Aresham and everything else. We don't even know how all of these movies really fit into the MCU timeline from Phase 4 and 5 until September 7th. September 7th, we should have a relatively definitive idea of how the timeline runs, because Marvel has authorized a book to go about. And I actually, along with the Scott Lang looking out for the little guy, I've got the MCU timeline book on pre-order for Amazon. So if you're interested, look that up online. We should have an answer, because I'm getting tired of people online saying, "Oh, I know how all this fits." And because again, Love and Thunder, we had an adolescent Groot, or at least the teen Groot still. And then all of a sudden, this movie, they're like, "Yeah, it's only a couple months different." I'm like, no, it's not. Love and Thunder happened a couple months after Endgame, but when it comes down to like where Volume 3 runs, it could be years after.
Yeah, we really don't know. But that brings me to an interesting thing that I don't know if you mentioned it, or is it just something, because other people's ideas seem to act like seeds in my head, and I'm not sure whose ideas are mine and whose ideas are other people's. But first of all,
claim them all for yourself.
There is what?
Just claim them all for yourself.
It's good idea. I shall do that in the future. First of all, after the very first, for those that don't know, Adam Warlock is in this movie, but they just call him Adam. And which, by the way, it wasn't until the second viewing that I saw that there is literally a moment in this film that mirrors. I don't know if it was Da Vinci or Michelangelo's painting with yes, God and Adam. And I laughed to myself when that moment happened the second time, because I realized, hey, wink, wink, nudge.
I saw that too. Yeah,
I get it. But first of all, the Adam Warlock we get in this film, I'm okay with, only because they made good reason for it to happen, and it adds to the element. We've always kind of gotten these sideways takes on characters, and that's fine. But all that aside, the idea that I thought, because there is, after that confrontation, the first one with Adam, there is a nightmare fuel moment with Groot that just him moving around after that battle, nightmare fuel, scared the hell out of me. But the next thing that he goes to do, and if you think about it, in Guardians 2, there was all of that hostility between Drax and Baby Groot until near the end of the movie, where, after everything that's happened, Groot is
falls asleep on him.
Yeah, he's endeared to Drax. And the first person that he looks in to comfort after that battle, even in his nightmare form, in my opinion, is Drax. And it was at that moment I realized, because, Groot has the ability to influence how he appears. And that's why I think we get the more swole Groot, as I like to call him, because he modeled himself after Drax in some fashion.
Yeah, and that, that's actually probably something we could add James Gunn on Twitter and see if he'll answer and see if that's true. And that could very possibly be exactly what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
No, but yeah, I mean that's what's amazing about all of that. I mean, even that scene, how brutal it was, like seeing how they all hold each other, and I'm surprisingly, Nebula was what do you call it? It was an underdog in this film. Like, I felt like she came out of nowhere. I mean, I really ended up liking her in Endgame, and then you have this back and forth where she's fitting in the team, but she's kind of not fitting in the team. And there's this idea that she's, like, you could tell she works really well with Peter, but not so well with Drax. And for her to make the assumption, and again, we're working on spoilers here and stuff, where she goes, "You were never meant to be a destroyer. You were meant to be a dad."
Made me cry.
And, oh my goodness, yes. And then for him to do what he did with those kids, like, that was just like, yeah, we may never see him again. Dave Bautista is done with the character, but knowing that he has a legacy in the MCU as the father of the children of nowhere. I'm just going to start calling him that. Like, that's just what I want him to be known as. Like, he is the father of the children of nowhere. And it was phenomenal. I loved it. And I love that he got that story that, yes, Ophed and his daughter Camaria are able to rest because he avenged them, but then he found a new purpose with a newfound family. Like, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and absolutely great, and just another one of those touching moments. But I do have to wonder, in my heart of hearts, because I know his comments about there's twofold on Bautista not wanting to play Drax anymore. One is the fact that playing the part is rather labor intensive in preparation. And they've addressed that with wardrobe now, which I think is great. Yeah. And I think the other part of the reason the comments were made was kind of in the spurring of James Gunn. And I also don't think he has an interest in playing the character if it's not directed by James Gunn. And I respect that, but I still think there's the possibility we could get more Drax in the future. I think the door is open enough. One thing I will say about
his concern was typecasting, though. Like he didn't want his legacy to be known as a character that was relatively dumb, and I think giving him like a father role actually opens him up for a little bit more of a more depth response. I think that's where they could go with this is if they do make him be more of that wise father that leads the family.
Well, and they did give him more depth and understanding in this movie, so much so that the words that are being spoken about him are hurtful, and Mantis then takes the memories away to make sure that he still maintains that innocence about their friendship. What else was I going to say? I just had a thought, an epiphany, if you will. And now I have lost it. Oh, well, these things happen when you record.
Was it about Batista coming back at some point, even though it's
but thank you. You did trigger that path for me. One of the things that I really liked about this movie, and I could be wrong, please feel free to call me out on it, but this is really the first time, in my opinion, in watching the movies that we definitely had story elements that really required you watch the Disney Plus content in order to follow along. Because if you just went straight from Volume 2 to Volume 3 and you did not take in the holiday special, there are there's at least two moments.
There's a big bombshell that goes from Volume 2 to Volume 3 that never gets addressed unless you've seen.
Yeah, and it's like right in the beginning of the movie. And there's also an additional part that's the end credit scene, which, by the way, I'm so glad you got to see the movie first, because I didn't have to go out and Google, but I'm good about this now, knowing ahead of time how many post-credit sequences there are, because to call back your way earlier comment, these movies are getting longer, but I'm getting older and my bladder's getting smaller. I literally, when we went to go see it the second time, I learned from seeing it the first time. Just as the movie started, I set a 1-hour timer on my watch. So that way, when it went off, I knew I was finally free and clear to start enjoying my soda.
Okay, now I have to ask you a question, because I know one of the things that you did before this film was you were actively avoiding the Volume 3 soundtrack because you wanted it to kind of hit you, at the time of the film. How do you feel about the Volume 3 soundtrack? How did it affect you? And how are any of those songs kind of like on your playlist now from it?
Oh, first of all, I have to say, immediately after these movies come out, the soundtracks are a part of, they're not just my Spotify list. I full on purchase them, and they are part of my permanent digital library. And I am glad I did what I did in the way that I did it, because I was able to experience every one of these songs in the way that the creator wanted them to be included as part of the narrative. And so it first of all, it definitely adds to the emotional impact. It definitely hits me in the feels, and or it really helps me be a part of the moment. And so I really, really, really enjoyed my experience, because I think I believe with Volume 2, I didn't do that. I believe it had come out in advance, and I had seen all the tracks that were on it. And and if you guys want to know how serious I'm about this, I am always supportive of my friend Tony. I always am. If I see he is live on TikTok, I will drop into that live and I will stay with him as long as I can be conscious for it. But he was building, oh gosh, what were you building? You were building the Sanctum Sanctorum, I believe.
Yes,
and you were
it's
listening
over.
to the Guardians 2 soundtrack. And I was like, dude, I don't mean to be a dick, but I gotta go because I'm blind to this soundtrack and I don't want to know. Tony,
Oh yeah.
I want to transition, however, because I want to discuss the most controversial thing for me about this movie. And I know you know what I'm talking about because you have the evidence sitting right behind you. And that, my friend, is this goddamn AMC popcorn bucket debacle, if you will. Now, we've gotten to the point where they have ample supply. I don't have to worry about getting there at 10 a.m. in the morning to get the item. However,
Yeah. The price point keeps it available.
this one did. All of the popcorn buckets up to date have been $29.99. And I have bought them with a grimace on my face, but I have gone through it. Yes, the Spider Bunny, Kevin Conroy, Floor was also nightmare fuel. You know, we definitely got to see some of James Gunn's demons really materialize in this movie. However, I'm talking about this popcorn bucket and this damn thing right here. Now, this one, I think, comparatively speaking, I understand where it's coming from because it literally has a licensed character on it. It's not something that's representative. Now, for those that aren't aware, in the past, there has been the mystical popcorn vessel that was a representation of the runes or the whatever those things are that doctors.
The runes of the it's the Shambhala.
There you go, the Shambhala symbol. So that was that one. There was the Black Panther Wakanda Forever one, which was just a bucket shaped in the
Which is more reminiscent to what they do in Canada.
Yeah.
For their theaters. So
Okay.
because they did the very same thing for Guardians of the Galaxy up there.
Oh, up there?
It looks like it's the exact same thing. It's just Guardians of the Galaxy. It's got the images of the characters on the sides.
Yeah. Now even Ant-Man, the Ant-Man popcorn bucket was an Ant-Man helmet. However, you know, that's an interpretive thing for the movies. This is a licensed character. Okay. This one is by far the coolest popcorn bucket. And all of my Patreon subscribers are probably going, oh, Will's going to get... No, there's no extra one of this. This one's mine and that's it. And the reason why... $49.99. I went into debt to get this goddamn thing. And you want to know why?
Let me...
Because, hold on, because one, this is an excellent character rendition of Rocket. So I thought that was great. I love that it's a Guardians themed box. And it's also the perfect vessel to put my Zarg nuts in. Okay?
Yes.
So that's why I did it. But I'm telling you right now that unless something really freaking cool comes along, this is going to be the last popcorn bucket I buy because I'm not going to support this.
Hold on. Let me just say something.
Okay.
For those of you who are fans, but you cannot see spending that price point, and I'm angry that I went there and I did not know about this because I would have gotten this too. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, AMC Theaters, they have a collectible sandwich vessel.
Oh my gosh.
And it's only $4.99.
Are you kidding me?
And it looks like the suit.
I was at the AMC. I didn't see hiding or hair.
Originally they were being sold online for $9.99. They've lowered them to $4.99. I guess you have to get it with a meal or something. I'm not sure. But I'm going to say this. I don't know how you feel about this. I actually wasn't super wild about Rocket's image on this. So I tried to add a little bit more white to his just to kind of give him more of the Rocket look because I felt like it was a little bit too subtle. Like the tail's fine, but I had to add a little bit to it. You can kind of see mine.
Yeah, the face is a little washed out. That is true. Let's hear you. I'll show you mine. You show me yours. Yes, I'm happy I said that. But yeah, I agree. But then again, I don't think the audience is going to quite get it as much because my detailed camera is showing a good depth and difference in color. But yeah, in person, the lighter colors you're seeing are more emphasized on Tony's. It is not as bright on mine. But still, I thought it was a really cool bucket, and it's something I would definitely want to have on my shelf. But I'm not going to support them with this crap anymore because $49.99. You're pushing
sorry.
it.
You can call me a shill. I'm gonna have to do, but I will be honest with you. It is the higher end of it. Now, this is a lot more expensive than wasn't the Guardians of the no, I'm sorry, wasn't the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania only like what was like $15 or something?
No, that one was. They've all been $29.99.
I
up
thought
until
it was
this
a little
point.
bit cheaper, but all honesty, I mean, like, yeah, that's more expensive. I hope we don't get a whole lot of that. I feel like it was because it was the end of a trilogy. Like they probably put more effort into this one, which I do like it. And I'll be honest with you, when we were at the I don't know, like a lot of people go to the premiere or like to the red carpet. They don't always get to go to the after party. We did get to go to the after party, which is where I got the Alamo Draft House collectible cup.
Nice.
Which you can get these at Alamo. These are souvenir cups that they sell at Alamo. In fact, I guess these have been they've not been doing these since the pandemic, and these are back. So they started with Guardians of the Galaxy. I got like 3 of these because you could just ask.
And I'm a show for the cups because one of the fondness from my childhood is that Burger King, I believe, of all places, always for every Star Wars movie had a stylized painted. I think it was lead paint too. You don't want to use the things, but they had glass tumblers that were themed with elements from the movies. So a cup is something that I'm a show for. So much so that I don't eat Burger King. But
oh man,
I went there when they had limited edition cups for the Star Trek, J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, and my daughter uses them to drink milk all of the time and pisses me off because I don't want them to go through the water. I have cups I don't want to be used as cups because of that reason. So I'm an absolute shill for that. I can understand, and I don't know if there's an Alamo Draft House near me, but I would definitely go to one just to get that cup.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And but like we went to the after party, good food, but there was no seats, so like it was hard to even eat there. But when we went around, I took my son around and we met Karen Gillan and stuff, and of course I didn't get a chance to because like Vin Diesel was having like an embracing session with James Gunn and was just like surrounded by people. But when we were at the celebrity tables, at the end of each table they had one of these rocket popcorn buckets. And so I was looking at it and I like felt bad that I didn't ask about it. I'm thinking I'm never going to see this thing again. And then AMC, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then $50, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do it. And then of course, like the boy had to have one. So just imagine. Mind you, mine was a birthday gift. So I'm thankful. Because I didn't have to pay for it, but still, that's a lot of money.
I was dilemmaing. I really was because I still have even an extra Ant-Man helmet right now from that because, and yeah, there are Patreon supporters that are still waiting for me to send out the 3 original buckets because I suck. But they are still yours, guys. They got your names on them. But still, I mean, that's the only difference in this one is that it's a character. Well, maybe it's because the character technically, if you wanted to, you could lose the bucket and still save the raccoon from it.
Right. Whereas, you can disconnect them. It's a little bit easier with this one.
Yeah. Whereas the Mjolnir popcorn vessel from Love and Thunder, it is just strictly integrated in with its rock base. You're not getting it off that thing without a lot of work and some restoration. So, I guess I could kind of see it, but still, it's just extortion. I have one more question about Guardians of the Galaxy, then we got to wrap up because we've been going way too long. But there is one thing that happens in there, and this was available in one of the clips that came out before the movie, because I did get spoiled by some scenes because of advanced clips that went out, and one of them is the scene of young Rocket and his circle of 8-9 series experiments. Rocket being 89P13, and Lila was like 89Q something or other. So they were all laying around, and the walrus, basically says, I've been thinking about, or no, it was Lila, actually, it was first, who's like, I was thinking more singular in about a name. So they all kind of come up with their names. And Rocket, in explaining his, he's like, one day I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to build great ships and fly my friends out through the endless sky. And in this movie, we get a more in-depth look at the newer ship, the Bowie that they have, or Bowie if you're in England. And so my question to you is this. With that bit of knowledge, and because of another reaction that a character has to the ship, do you feel that the Bowie was actually designed or created by Rocket?
Absolutely. I believe that all of the tech for the Guardians is built by Rocket. Rocket is, I mean, if you think about the catalyst with Endgame, Tony had the concept for the quantum tunnel based off of the van from Scott Lang, but Rocket was the one building the Avengers quantum tunnel.
Yeah, definitely.
In the film, like he was the one doing it. And he goes, of course, you're not the smartest you're the smartest person on this planet. Kind of letting him know, like, Rocket is absolutely smarter than him. And you can kind of see that even with the building of the gauntlet, Rocket was very involved in all of that. Like, Rocket had to do those things because he could make work with technology what everyone else's limitations were. And that buoy, the Bowie, was absolutely made by Rocket and designed with his team in mind, and with their mindset. And he probably trained them on it, had all the protocols, like even like the fact that like Peter was going through. And if you notice how he changed like the frequency of, I guess it was like the electrical like currents or something in the ship that helped them get through the different barriers of the place that they were going to. Like all of that was designed in a way that Rocket was forward thinking. Like, you think about Tony Stark being a futurist, he always made things to fix problems that he had in the past. Rocket was building things for concepts of issues for the future without ever having to go through those situations.
Exactly, which is extremely true, especially when you see the movie, because there's a trinket that he has in the beginning of the movie that we learn its origin, and there was absolutely no need to build it, but he sure as hell was thinking about it, right?
And even from the holiday special, we know it had a cloaking device.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this ship was very well. Like, I had to go back and watch the holiday special because I'm like, did we see the Bowie there? And I'm like, oh dang, yeah, we did.
Yep.
Like, I just thought it was like an auxiliary ship, but no, that was the new. And I love, you go back and you name it. I almost wonder if Rocket is the one that named it as well. You had the first ship, of course, being the Milano, named after Melissa Milano.
Then the Benatar.
But the Benatar, Pat Benatar. And then you have the Bowie. And of course, there's a David Bowie song in the movie. Like, you absolutely have this progression. I believe this was Rocket doing it, especially with that end credit scene.
Oh yeah,
where they're literally going over music. Like, Rocket has taken some of the persona of Peter, and even in the first film, like, always wanting clones of Peter's music, using, playing Southern Nights while he's like just wreaking havoc on the Ravagers. Like, you can absolutely see.
Oh my gosh. How could we even, I'm all like, we need to wrap up, but how can we not talk about this movie? Now, there has kind of been a precedent that has been set in Marvel properties. One of them originated not in the MCU proper, but it originated in the Netflix series. And that was Daredevil was setting up kind of a tight quarters fight scene. In the first Daredevil series, it is known as the hallway scene. In the second one, it is the stairway scene. I don't even remember the damn third one. But in both of those instances, you get a very tight-knit fight quarters scene. And James Gunn in this movie took that to the next level with a hallway scene.
The best hallway scene, I mean, that was the best action sequence, I would say, of any of the films. Just the fluidity with the team. And also being able to see the limits of Nebula and what she can go through and still kick it.
But
like, absolutely crazy.
But that also led me to one thing that we see in there, where there is kind of this evolution of Rocket kind of becoming Peter, and Peter learning from Rocket, because in that scene, I'm gonna spoil this element, don't give a goddamn.
Yeah.
There's a moment where Peter is literally just suddenly slinging discs at people, and I saw them like, wait a minute, is that? And then sure enough, after he got about 4 of them down, the group of guys comes charging at him, and he just whips up that trigger, and they all just get shocked the same way Rocket hopped from Ravager to Ravager, planting these on him in the second film, and then just shocked the living hell out of him.
He taught him that. Rocket absolutely taught him that. That's right out of Rocket's book. And it was at the same time, like seeing even Rocket, like, first of all, can we just talk about the fact that I love that Rocket's wearing boots now? Like,
yes.
that. Like, and just like, he's the full-fledged Rocket Raccoon. I mean, they're all wearing the suit. The only thing that was missing was Star-Lord's mask, and it would have literally been the outfit for the team. But I love the fact that all of the team members got the suits. It wasn't just nitpicking and whatever else. You had the team, they were uniformed, and the fact that they were the question of like, what's going on, and all he had to say was, we need to save all of them, and all of them were on page with him, and you could already see he was already leading them at that moment. Like, we're going to go for all of them, and them following behind him and following suit. And that action sequence was just beautiful.
It was great.
And then Nebula's arm as well.
Thank you.
Knowing that he designed that.
I wanted to hit on that. As Zach Byerly in chat also brought that up. He said he built Nebula's new arm, and that thing is crazy. But I have to wonder, did he build because if you see the Christmas special, did he build Nebula's new arm, or did he modify a different arm to take it to a new level?
James Gunn said it was a different arm. It's a completely different arm. Yeah, he made it, and it's better than Bucky's.
Oh, but indeed.
One other thing I do need to go back. Like, I have not seen it for a second time yet. We're hoping to do that next week. I'm wanting to scour when you're in Rocket's room. I would love to see if it's somewhere, like, just hidden, like
Bucky's arm is just. If it's anything like my room, it's just sticking out from under some laundry.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Tony, I got to tell you, I had one hell of a conversation. We didn't really hit on any of the other points outside of Guardians of the Galaxy. And you know what? That's okay. And, like I said, if you want to hear my thoughts on the 3rd season of Mandalorian and you want to hear my thoughts on Picard, you can check out the last episode of special edition Black Man Beyond episode of Fat Man Beyond. You can find that over on Kevin Smith's channel, youtube.com/Kevin Smith. Tony, please remind everyone everywhere that they can find you and how.
Oh, well, definitely check me out on at Mr. Marvelite. I still do social media there, pretty much on everything, TikTok, Instagram, and on Twitter. But mostly you're going to find me on Nerd Initiative, and that's at the Nerd Initiative channel on YouTube, as well as nerdinitiative.com, where we're doing some great things. We're actually planning, I'll just say this real quick, we'll be at AwesomeCon in DC this June. It's gonna be Father's Day weekend. We are doing a panel that Friday night at I believe it's at 5:45. We're gonna be doing expounding in the MCU, explaining phases 4 and 5. And so we're gonna try to line up all of the threats that have been built up at this point and what it could mean for the future leading into King Dynasty and Secret Wars and beyond. So it should be really good.
Awesome. And, most importantly, too, when Tony brings up the YouTube channel, I think it's like every other week or whatever schedule it is on. Be sure to check out him co-hosting Fandoms with Michael as well over there, because it is always a great fan-oriented discussion, as well as another way to go ahead and hear other people talk about and give their opinions on the latest in nerd news and things going on like that. So...
Yes, and it's going to be happening this Friday at 9:00. We're actually going to have another mutual on TikTok, Nelly the Genie. He does a lot of Transformers cosplay. He does an amazing Optimus Prime cosplay as a person. And we're going to be talking about the Transformers movie franchise, as well as Beast Wars, and to him as a general. Fandoms this season is going to be focused on talking about the fandoms that maybe not Michael and I are not necessarily as familiar with, or not as in depth as, like, let's say Marvel or DC. But we're trying to have a new guest on every week, which may end up having a certain bald-headed gentleman there.
Oh, okay, good, because I was looking around and I didn't see my invite anywhere. I was just looking at the
desk.
No,
it's coming. It's coming.
I know it's a mess in here, but I didn't see it, so I was starting to wonder. But Tony, as always, thank you very much. The internet is a crazy place, and as a person a little more up in the years than when I first started in the internet game, it has really, one of the things I've reflected on lately is the fact that the internet has brought me some of my favorite people in the world and some of my closest friends in the world. And I really hope the feeling is reciprocated, but I not only appreciate your time joining me on NetHeads, and I even said beforehand that you are like the de facto second host of the show, kind of in second position after Trent, my second best friend, if you will. Again, once you see the movie, that'll be a lot more amusing. But really, I appreciate it, and I want you to know that you truly are, to me, one of my certainly my better friends, if not one of my best friends online. And so thank you very much for joining me. Please, if you enjoy this, be sure to support Tony as well in any way you can, whether it's on TikTok, YouTube, or the like. And thank you very much for joining me, my friend. I greatly appreciate it.
And first, I'm going to say, I'm not going to let you get off easy on that. Absolutely, it's reciprocated. You know, one of the things I think I've loved about the Guardians films is about found family. And after the pandemic and everything else, realizing that, you know, the people that I've met online, the friends that I have made are my family. They're considered family. You know, we talk about, you know, you, Michael, like a lot of the people that we've met and become, you know, friends and family with. And dude, you've been there through some of the hardest stuff that we've had to deal with in this last year. If not calling you one of my best friends, but calling you family, because we love you, man. So don't ever think
Thank
that
you.
that's not
I appreciate that. And that was one of those more interesting moments when Tony was in LA the morning of the premiere. I just wanted to send him a quick note, and I just wanted to. I was actually walking my dog at the time, and I was kind of surprised how impacted I was by him being able to attend a premiere. And I just sent him a quick video, you know, I'm like, and I shot Benjamin, my dog, and I'm like, Benjamin may not be really impressed, but, and then I turned it to me and I'm just like, congratulations, man. I'm really proud of you and really happy for you for this moment, because like today is your day. And then quite shockingly,
I think you got some dust in your eyes.
Yeah, I
You were
definitely did.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it was an outdoor walk, a little windy. And, you know, then actually I got to enjoy a nice FaceTime with Tony and his entire family as they were just in the hotel room, you know, getting ready to take on the day. And it was a nice moment. So thank you very much, sir. I greatly appreciate it. I feel the exact same way. And you know what, folks? Hey, if you got a little dust in your eye, great, because it just means you're human. And thank you, Kevin Conroy. We love you too. Not that Kevin Conroy. We have another Kevin Conroy. He's the other Kevin Conroy, as we like to refer to him. So thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Thank you for enjoying this installment, hopefully, of NetHeads. Don't forget, next Sunday at 6 p.m., there's going to be somebody here with me, no matter what, because we are bringing it back. We are fighting the Sunday scaries by bringing you some of the happy nerd and tech talk that you're looking for and making you forget about the horrific oncoming of Monday in itself. So we'll battle the Sunday scaries with the NetHeads every Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific, as long as I'm able to do it. You know, family commitments happen. Like yesterday, my daughter had a dance competition. There was no doing anything else but going to that. So if it falls on a Sunday, NetHeads are out of luck. But until next time, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Will.
I'm Tony.
And we will be back soon. I arrange these buttons in a way where I'm like, oh, I can hit them quickly.
This is NetHeads with Will Wilkins and Trent Hunsaker. Signing off. I know, right? But stop being a little Nancy and deal with it. NetHeads. We'll be back soon.
Goodbye.
This has been a Smodco Internet production. Sip. Only at smodcast.com. Tony, what if I wanted Zarg nuts?
I sent you some. That's all you're going to get.
See, I thought you would do the thing for the movie. Like, well, what if I wanted Zarg nuts? And it's too late. They're already gone. And then you eat another one. Again with the buttons, Will. What's wrong with